Hi everyone, this is Attorney Poonam Minhas back with another informational video on immigration. I have a guest with me today. Her name is Jill Divan Katera, and she's going to be asking questions that a layperson has when they're watching the news, walking down the street, and they don't have access to an immigration attorney. So, lucky day for you, girl.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So we're just going to randomly speak about different topics that someone who's a Generation Z has questions about current issues that are going around, right? So she's going to ask the questions. I'm going to jump in and answer them, and I'm sure you'll have follow-up questions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so today's topic is, what did I say it was?
Immigration?
Just immigration, no specific topic. It's just going to be a Q&A from my special guest, and we'll go from there. And of course, I do want to mention, if you have any questions, you can comment below or reach out to me directly, because I don't want it to be anything that is particular to your case to be mentioned in the comments. If they're general questions, we'll be able to get back to you, but if they're not general and it's specific to your case, I do not recommend you utilizing the comment section below. All right, let's go.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Gen Z, so a lot of the questions I have today pertain to immigration questions that would pertain to somebody who is my age or similar. So topics like DACA, H1, sponsorship, and even just general questions about what we see in the news and we just don't have enough information to learn about, because like I said, not everybody has access to an immigration lawyer, so we're going to take advantage of that opportunity for sure.
But I do want to ask one thing, since you don't have access to an immigration attorney until now.
Yeah.
Have you tried Googling anything to see what you can get?
100%. But like a lot of the times, especially nowadays, information can be so biased, and not everyone is an authorized person to speak on the facts. Like, I can Google these questions just as easily, but a lot of the times you don't know if the person on the other side is accredited. Did they go to law school? Did they put in the work? You often don't know that. So to have an actual lawyer here with immigration experience is a huge resource that we can all take advantage of.
Okay, sounds good. So no Google attorneys, right?
No.
Actual licensed attorneys.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right, what's your first question?
So the first question is about DACA, and it's just a general question on what is the latest update on DACA as of 2022.
Okay, so I do want to mention that last summer, the federal court found that DACA, unfortunately, is pretty much declared unlawful. And following that, there were more suits, and I'm sure you heard about there were 2 suits going around just recently, one in New York, one in Texas. So we're still waiting for a decision. Okay. So currently right now, they are not adjudicating these DACA applications. So the first time applications, they're just sitting there. Okay, right. So if you think you're eligible for DACA and you're filing, they're accepting the applications, USCIS, but they're not processing them, if that makes sense. But if you already have DACA, you're a DACA recipient from the past, keep renewing your DACA. It's very, very important. They're still doing that. They're accepting the people who have already been approved for DACA. Keep renewing it. Don't lapse. Don't forget to renew it. That could only harm you. And they're also accepting advance parole, which is a travel document that you can use to travel. Yeah, so they do get that option, and they can also work if they have DACA.
Okay, because I was under the assumption that if you're under the DACA program, you cannot leave this country.
Not true. You can ask for advance parole. If USCIS grants you advance parole, then you may travel on it. But I do want to mention, this is where an immigration attorney comes in. You want to make sure that you're okay to travel. There's always a risk. Okay, you get this document. Sometimes, people think, oh, I got the document, I can just travel. But it's the issue of whether you're going to be let into the country. It gives you that authority to go and travel, but now the question is, it doesn't guarantee you entry into the country. So some people are scared, DACA recipients who get the advanced parole, they're like, okay, well, I have it. Some do travel, some don't. And is there anything that might be helpful when you travel? Yeah, because when you do come in on advance parole, you're actually paroled into the country. And that's a whole different topic I want to deal with, because as a Gen Z, what do you understand about DACA? Like, just generally, tell me what you think about DACA. What is it?
I feel like for me, I'm not part of DACA, but I am familiar with people who are just through social media. And my understanding is that they came here to this country at a very young age, possibly not even understanding their own immigration status. And because of that, the reason that they don't know, they have received the status through a program President Obama started, where they can stay in this country, but they do not have any legal citizen status, and their benefits as residents in this country are very limited. Like, from my understanding always was, they literally are just allowed to live here. Nothing beyond that. They don't get that many benefits that a typical, even immigrant would have that came into this country.
Okay, so you have a good basic understanding of what DACA recipients have. Things are a lot more complicated. Some may have come into this country, on a visa, but, you accrue something called unlawful presence. And then you hop onto DACA. It saves you from deportation. It is not a long-term process. There is no path to a green card. There's no path to citizenship. So that's going to be probably your next question.
Yeah,
so yes,
absolutely.
Your general idea is correct, but you can work. You get work authorization for DACA, and you get to travel if your advanced parole is approved. Okay. So there's a separate process for that.
So dreamers, you can take your dream vacation.
Well, consult with an attorney to see if that's
definitely
possible.
No, do not just listen to me, but if you have any serious questions, make sure all your questions and queries are addressed.
Yes.
So there is no process for dreamers to apply for citizenship at all.
So the way it works in the United States is you would have to get a green card first. Okay, and there are requirements to file for citizenship after you have your green card for 5 years, and then whatever requirements are needed for citizenship, then you can go ahead and apply for citizenship. Some of the DACA recipients, believe it or not, have gotten the advanced parole, traveled on it, got paroled into this country, and then they end up marrying U.S. citizens.
Right.
Okay, so when they marry a U.S. citizen, they're actually able to adjust. But that's not the same case for DACA recipients who are not married to U.S. citizens, who have been in this country for a long time. And even if they do marry a citizen and they're not paroled into this country, they came in unlawfully, which is like they crossed the border or something, they accrue unlawful presence. So a main petition can be filed for them through their spouse. But now the other issue that you run into is the unlawful presence. So how do you overcome that?
Yeah.
So right now we do have something called an unlawful presence waiver. You have to show extreme unusual hardship for the unlawful presence waiver. That gets approved in this country. It takes some time, but then you have to go back to your home country to get a visa interview to try to come back in as if that never happened.
That's such a hard process because for a lot of dreamers, they came to this country when they were young. All they know is America. They don't know the country that they left behind.
So the question is, what are they going back to?
Yeah.
So a lot of the, dreamers don't want to go that route because it's too risky.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, because a lot of people who might have been against DACA don't understand that for those kids, this country is all they know, is all that they know. It's a long process that a lot of people don't consider.
Yeah, that's true. So you have to have some other type of plan to have a path to green card and then eventually citizenship.
Yeah.
I know a lot of dreamers have been waiting for some kind of change in the policy, so then there can be a path to direct citizenship or even just a green card. So it's very unfortunate. I think it's really disheartening that there's so much things going on with DACA and the dreamers, and we're all kind of, crossing our fingers and hoping for some type of, solution for all these kids. Absolutely. And all these, young adults that have been in this country their whole life.
Right.
This is all they know.
I think the biggest thing we can do is wait and watch and try to get involved as much as we can with our local government. It all starts from there.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue right now is people are uneasy. Like, what if they get rid of it?
Yeah.
That's going to be severe disruption. That's a lot of people. A lot of, It's a very confusing and really complex situation. I know people who have actually gotten through from other means to get their green cards, and I'm happy for them. But then there's so many who are stranded, and they're just doing the best they can.
No, that's the best part. But they have those options.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for DACA. But do you have any other questions?
For now, I'm great.
Okay.
I think it's been super informative to learn more about DACA. And like I said, I didn't know that they had the ability to travel this country. I thought their benefits were very limited. So that's very good to know. And I'm sure if there are people who don't know, that information is wonderful to spread and let them know as well. But for now, I want to move on to other potential immigration questions that Gen Z might have.
Okay.
And the biggest thing, next biggest thing that I can think of is student visas.
Okay.
So not exactly student visas, but my question is, because I've seen it, my friends go through the process and it's been very hard. Some of them have even had to go back to their country because of it. I wanted to ask, when it comes to H1, why is it so hard for students to get that visa?
That's a really good question. And so actually just recently I had posted about a story of a young kid and he was going through something similar. So I'll just give you an example of that. Then I'll answer your question why it's so difficult. So this kid named Kartik came into this country and he eventually got on something called the H4. So he was a dependent on his father's H1B. And he was young at the time, so, mother and father were being very hopeful. They're going to have a path to a green card, and then somehow it would benefit their child, their son. Now, the process is you have to have this option before you hit 21. So 21 years age is like the ultimate, you age out. You hit 21, game over. So that's what happened with Kartik. And there's other things that I had read in that article where he was applying to change his status from the H4 to a student visa, and when he did that, I guess he didn't understand the correspondence that needed to be answered to, so he didn't go in for something and missed it. So then he ended up flying back to his home country and finally got the student visa. So now, because he didn't benefit from his father's, here's where the struggle comes in. So not only are you on a student visa, right? You're on a student visa to do what? Study in this country. So you can't work. You have to wait until you have work authorization through something called like OPT or something. And I'm sure you've heard that as well. And then you got to wait and see, okay, I finally got this OPT. I want to work with somebody. And is this person, this employer of mine, going to sponsor me? So now the employer has to really think, is this person worth it to sponsor? And then you have to wait in line to see, if you qualify and whether the visa is available for you eventually in the future. So there's a huge process. Okay, so he has to get back in line to now get his own H1. Yeah. And his father eventually benefited from his own, that he's going to get a green card. Or he can try his luck with the H-1B lottery, which is a different...
We live in a culture where kids get so excited to turn 21, but when you're a child of immigrant or an immigrant yourself, it's such a sad thing to wait for. And it's an important milestone otherwise.
Yeah, which also leads to like the Child Protection Act, There's another topic. I swear, with immigration, we could like go on and on. I could write a book about it. I mean, there's several people who wrote books about it, but yeah, I'm sure
Can't wait to hear your book.
I can't wait to read my book.
Yeah, read your book.
But that's the basic. It's a lengthy process, and it really depends. And you have to look at whether the employer is actually going to invest their time and money into you to sponsor you.
Speaking of that, I know it's a lot of time and money that goes into sponsorship, but yet I feel like employees should be a valuable resources for them. Why is it that employers still are very, very reluctant to sponsor employers?
You mean employees for like a green card?
Yeah.
Okay. This is like the number one concern a lot of the employers have, and I'm just speaking on behalf of some that I've spoken to based on experience, is that once you get a green card, the person doesn't feel like they're going to stick around. So if I'm an employer and I sponsor you for a green card, you get your green card. What are the chances you're going to stay with me for the next 10, 12 years? You might be like, oh, I'm getting a better offer. And you eventually stay with me for a year, but then you move on to something else. Right. So as an employer, I don't really feel secure.
That's interesting. I never thought retention could be such an issue for employers to not sponsor employees. That's very interesting.
So a lot of employers are very, they're hesitant to really sponsor for a green card.
Right, as anyone would be, to have your literal existence be dependent on an employer. Once I would get that, why would I chain myself to just one employer? I should be able to work wherever I want. So that's very interesting. I never thought about that before.
And of course, with like the H-1B process, with the green card process, there's a lot of things that are involved. So it's like, this is just like a general idea of like what people are thinking, what the path is, what you can or cannot do. That's why it's so important that you have to really sit down with an immigration attorney who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And it's not just a simple Google search, because you're going to find unreliable information.
There is a lot of unreliable information out there. It's very important to get your information from someone who's accredited and, did the work.
This is true.
So now I want to lean away from the typical student visa and the DACA information, because I feel like we covered great ground. I now want to lean more towards questions about immigration that I've had, or maybe other people that have, just by reading the news, and you get curious, like, okay, what is the process behind this? The biggest thing that happened most recently in the news, it's been huge, everyone's read about it, is about the 10-year-old who was so unfortunately, the person who committed the crime against the young woman was an undocumented immigrant, and he was arrested. My question is, how does the legal process, especially for crime, differ for immigrants or undocumented immigrants compared to citizens?
Okay, so generally what happens is, if someone commits a crime, an immigrant commits a crime who's a non-citizen of the United States, then, they face a judge, okay, federal or state, depends on what it is, because with immigration, it's all federal law, so it can be practiced anywhere in the U.S., but state-specific, or in the federal court of that state, you have to see what the punishment is, right? So you face the judge, and you plead guilty, you lawyer up, and you just get convicted or something. And then you do your time with that court. Like, if they tell you have to serve 18 years and you go in for 18 years, fine, you serve that time. But then if that crime is very severe, there might be something called an ICE hold. So once you serve your time, you now get transferred over to ICE, which is the detention center, and you deal with the immigration judge over there.
Okay, so they have to serve their mandatory time as if a regular citizen would have committed that crime. They
Correct.
And then they get deported to ICE. That's very interesting, because I always thought it was the other way around. That they had to go through ICE first, and they immediately face deportation, being completely rid of their crime time.
No, so they have to serve their time, and then they get transferred over. I've seen some people get released, like right after they serve their time, depending on what the crime is, and then eventually ICE comes knocking on the door, comes to pick them up. So I've seen that happen too. Yeah. But generally what's supposed to happen is you deal with the consequences of the crime that was committed, and then eventually you have to deal with now your non-immigrant status to see what relief you're eligible for to stay in the United States. Yeah. And if you have an aggravated felony, that's really tough to fight, because that is going to be a deportable offense. It's going to be an issue. So that's why I also recommend that if someone happens to get arrested for something, hire a criminal defense attorney, but also have an immigration attorney. You need both. You need both lawyers, because your criminal defense attorney is not going to know what to do with your immigration matter. Yeah. A lot of attorneys don't understand what visa you came here on. They don't understand whether you are a U.S. citizen or not. They don't care to ask that. And that you fall into a lot of issues at that point.
Yeah, I feel like immigration law is in its own world. It has its own language. So it's very important to have somebody who can understand that world as well.
Yes, and it changes every day.
Yeah.
So with immigration attorneys, you have to be on top of the law every single day. Whatever was under the Obama administration, Trump came and changed some of it. Then now we're going under Biden, and Biden is, trying to overdo what Trump did. So every administration comes with its own agenda. It comes with its own rules and regulations, and you just have to keep up with case law, keep up with like all these different cases. And we knew that the Supreme Court was going to be entertaining like a lot of things, and I don't really want to ramble into this, but Roe v. Wade was a big thing. I know you and I spoke about that a lot. Then the DACA thing. Then we went into several other things that were the whole climate control. There's a lot of things that have issues, and it needs to be dealt with. And there's just so many protests going around. Like, it's a big deal. And it's very important that we stay on top of it.
Right. And a lot of the times people don't understand, especially I didn't understand that how much of it bleeds into immigration.
Yes.
I never thought that an issue like Roe v. Wade would necessarily impact immigration in the way that it has, especially in recent times.
Especially, it's crazy that you had mentioned the 10-year-old girl that was, I believe she was pregnant, right? And she had to leave her state to go travel to see where abortion is actually allowed, which is very, very, I don't even want to get into that, but that's another issue. It's very unfortunate what's happening right now. But yeah, it's all linked, believe it or not.
That's crazy. But I feel like we covered a lot of ground. I definitely have a lot more questions where that came
I'm sure.
from. But I think I want to maybe like put a nice bow on top. If there's anything you want to finish off, we would love to hear. But I think for the most part, we've done a good job addressing information. But if there's anything that you feel like we haven't addressed and you would want us to talk about, definitely comment below. And if you don't feel comfortable addressing it publicly, definitely email Poonam, and I think that we can definitely address what you have in mind.
Absolutely. I can talk for hours, so that's not going to be an issue. But yes, if you have concerns about your immigration status, you can contact me. We can schedule a consultation. We can evaluate your case and figure out what's going on and what the next steps will be. And I don't want you to feel scared in doing that, because everything we discuss will be confidential. I do want to mention that today's video was all informational, just a general video about things that are happening in the world, Generation Z, what type of questions they may have, just walking down the street, just watching the news, like, oh my God, what's really, going on with this. And I just want to end this video saying thank you again for joining me and my guest today. And if you are a first timer, make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and join us back, because we're going to have more updates on immigration. And let me know if I should bring her back as a guest.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you.